Hello everyone, welcome to today's webinar. And today we are having Consolata with the SharePoint experts at Sibasi Limited. So Sibasi, we are focused on providing you with excellent solution and the best solution to ensure your business success. So today, Consolata will be taking us through contract management in SharePoint. Welcome, Consolata.
Hi everyone, welcome to our webinar today. So for the agenda of the day, we'll be going through SharePoint, contract management on SharePoint. And before we do that, I'll just give you an overview of the agenda. So we'll begin with the solution introduction, then head over to the walkthrough on the workflow. So that is the architecture of the contract management system. We'll also go through the technologies that have been used to come up with this system and do some a live walkthrough on the list that have been set up and on the workflows that have been set up, come up with a solution. We'll conclude with a Q&A session and Q&A and feedback session. And also in case if anybody else would like to us to address something else, we can just go ahead and do that. So as Rebecca had highlighted, we as Sibasi are geared to empowering everybody that you interact with to achieve the ultimate success and impact. So we provide innovative services and solutions in various technologies, such as in the Microsoft space, and also for custom development in mobile applications and in custom systems. Yes, so we head over to the solution introduction. So the first part would be to understand why we are coming up with the contract management solution. So in a normal organization, you'll find most of the team members working with documents such as invoices, contracts, statements of work, and so on. So some of these digital assets are sent through email, some are paper assets sent through traditional mail. And in order to keep track of all these customer contracts and put them, sort them out or single them out from the other documents, you need a reliable way to actually categorize these documents. Also, just putting into perspective that these documents may contain very key legal information that may lead to lawsuits in the future. So having a method of actually categorizing these and processing this information is one of the key things in an organization. So the contract management solution allows us to manage, track, communicate, and automate each and every step in the contract lifecycle. So the contract lifecycle basically involves contract drafting. Then after drafting, we usually have maybe internal approvals. Then after that, you have the actual signing, and then the document is stored, then used for payment processing, and finally the service is delivered, and then we close the contract and maybe archive the documents. So some of the benefits of the solution is first, we get to come up with a contract template. We get to co-author with different team members. And as highlighted, after co-authoring, you can send it for internal approvals. And then we also have the search and contract categorization, which allows us to search for individual documents. And we have the approvals workflow, which allows us to send the contract for approvals. Then the alerts and notifications, these are for either for payment or alerts that the contract is about to expire. Then we also have e-signature integration. This is for the contracts that are signed electronically. either through Adobe Sign or DocuSign. And then we have the generation of reports. So in case you want to come up with a report with the data from the contracts, you can be able to generate such a report if through this contract management solution. So the workflow of this contract management solution is first team members collaborate on a contract, then they send it for approval. After it's approved, it's sent for signing to the both parties. Then on signing, the contract is created on a SharePoint list for tracking. So the technologies that have been used to come up with this solution, the first technology is SharePoint, which is our main site. And then we have Teams and Mail for communication, and Adobe Sign for signing, and Power Automate to come up with the flows. So at this point, I'll just go through the live system just to show you how it's been set up, the features that we have now on the live system. And then we'll come back to and also go through the list of workflows and maybe go through some of the workflows that have been set up. Yes, so this is the contract management system on SharePoint. So this is actually a SharePoint site and how it's been set up. The first view that you get to see here is a hero image, just showing us the different features that or what you can be able to achieve on SharePoint. And then to our right, we have a shortcut to our SharePoint list where we can upload new contracts. And okay, to just see what happens when I say add new contract. So it takes us to the actual list on SharePoint. So this is just a shortcut on how you can add the new item. And then as we scroll down, we get to see we have contracts due for payment, which are organized by the due for payment view. And then we have the contracts due for renewal, which have been organized by the due for renewal view. So the contracts due for payment actually filter the main contracts list with a contract that is actually due for payment first. And then for the contracts due for renewal, it organizes it by the contract which is due for renewal first. So this one is based on the expiry date column, and the contract due for payment is based on the payment date column. So just to go through the list items that we have. So we have a title for the first column. So let's say maybe it's a rental house. So it's a lease for a house. So we can just say it's office space. So office space, let's say we're opening a new office in, let's say in Ethiopia. Then the contract type, here you can add as many contract types as you want, since this is a choice column. So we say it's a lease. Then the contract start date, it has been set to automatically pick the date today. Then an expiry date. So this one you can pick the expiry date, it's let's say next year, maybe it's an yearly contract. So just go to October 2023. And maybe at this point, I'd just like to highlight that these kind of contracts are in this view, we're assuming that the contract has already been signed through the traditional way. And we are just coming to add the contract details onto SharePoint. So we also have other contract types where we begin by drafting, and then after drafting, we actually send it out for approvals, and then after it's approved, it auto creates on SharePoint. Now it auto creates on this list, but in this case, we are trying to we're assuming that we already have the contract signed traditionally, and we're just adding the details here. So I think my internet is lagging for a bit, so I'll just cancel and do this. We just refresh. And then just redo. It's a list, the contract start date set to today, then the expiry, we're gonna set it to October next year. Yep. So then we're gonna set the internal contact person. So this one automatically picks from Active Directory. And then for the external contact person, since we are not able to pick that automatically, we can just enter the value manually. So since I'm using a different environment from my usual one, I'll just add my work email. Then the contract value has been set to pick currencies from the US dollar currency. So this can also be changed in case you don't want your contract value to pick the US dollar currency. You can put the currency that you need, that you prefer. So let's say this is valued at $5,000. Then the payment date would be beginning of next month. So let's say on 4th. So this status column is actually a column that picks all. So once it's submitted is new, and then we have the active one that the contract has already started. So, and then we have the archive. So archive, it's a contract that has been completed to term. Then we have the terminated one, meaning the contract has been suspended due to the various reasons. So this is an active contract. And then here you can add the actual contract. So the actual signed contract. And then you can click on save. So that one will actually create a new list item here. So if you want to actually see like a larger view of this, you can come to contracts. It will open up the list of all the contracts. And then here we see our latest entry, which is the Office Space Ethiopia. And you also have other previous entries that were there before. So from the SharePoint list, those are the fields that we have. So the title, the contract type, which is a choice column, the start and expiry date, the internal contact person, external, the contract value, payment date, and the status of the contract. So in case you'd like to add any other columns, you can just add them here. We have the add columns. In case you'd like to edit out the contract value, currency type, you can come here, say column settings, and then edit. And then here you can be able to edit the type that you, and also the currency format. If maybe you want, say in Kenya shillings, or in case you want to calculate in any other currency, you can be able to do that here. So here we also have the generation of views. So we saw on the homepage we have a filter for the due for payment. and the due for renewal. So this views, how you create the views is and how you are actually sure that this contract that is due for payment is the one that is here. So for example, you just created the Office Space Ethiopia. It's due for payment in the beginning of next month. And it's actually positioned as a second entry on the view for due for payment. So how you actually achieve this is you come and say create new view. And since I already created this view, I'll just try to edit this and then show you how you can actually set an actual field to be the determinant of your view. So if I say edit current view, it will open up a new tab where I can be able to edit the view. So this is the name of my view. Then here I want to sort the column payment date. So which is the column payment date here, up here. And I want to sort the column by ascending order. So that meaning the first, like the value that is due first at the top. So yeah, as shown here, maybe ABC or 1, 2, 3. So if I wanted the payment date that is last to show first, I'd say descending order. But since I want it to show the one that is due to show first, then it's ascending order. And then I can also choose to sort as many columns as I want, but for this view, I only want to sort this column. Yeah, and once I have my condition set, I can just click on OK, and that will actually create my view. So that is the same as the due for renewal. So this one now focuses on the contract expiry column. And that is how we are able to achieve these two views. So yeah, but our default view is the all items, so that when we come, we are able to see all the items that have been, all the contracts that have been submitted. Yeah, so that is the overview of the site design. So alternatively, as I had mentioned, if you'd like to maybe submit a claim or actually draft a contract and then submit for approval, you could use the approval on Teams either by integration to Adobe Sign or DocuSign, your preferred signing e-sign system. And then using that, you can actually assign the approvals and submit for approval. Then once submitted, it could create a new list item here. But that one I think we can cover in a future episode so that you can, once we have the Adobe Sign and DocuSign licenses, then it will be easier. I probably have another person on standby to just go through that. It will actually be really interesting to have a co-presenter on the call. So in the next part, we'll go through some of the flows that you can actually come up with. So I'll just switch to my presentation. So some of the workflows that you can come up with, we have the auto creation. So the first two workflows are if you actually started the process, like you want to e-sign, you want to electronically sign the contract. So we have the auto creation of the SharePoint list item on contract signing. And then we have contract approval reminders. So this one is for internal approvals. So in case your approving manager failed to approve the contract internally so that it's sent out for signing, then we have the workflow for reminding the specific assigned approver for that. And then we have the payment reminders that can be sent out to finance, just to remind them that the contract is due for payment maybe this month or next month. And then we have the contracts due for renewal or expiry, and also updating the auto update of the status column on the SharePoint list on contract expiry to archived. So just to show you maybe how the payment reminder will work. So I'll switch over to Automate, which is also one of the technologies that we've been using for this. So we have the payment reminder workflow. And then we just go and edit mode just to show you the steps that are there. Taking a bit of time to load. Maybe we can open up another flow, like so maybe as it's loading the steps for getting the payment reminder workflow. So the payment reminder workflow will actually run every month, and then it will get, oh yeah, it's up. So it's actually a recurrence workflow or a scheduled workflow that would run. So actually this one runs every day, yeah, due to the date. Then after it runs so you can choose to have it run every day or every month, depending on when you'd like to be reminded of the payment. So, and it gets the items from SharePoint. So this is SharePoint connector on Automate and the list name contracts. And then, so this connector add to time actually gives us a month from now. So what we've done is you format the date time now and then interval of 1. So in case you wanted to get, this is the month, like 1 month to come. In case I wanted to get 2 months to come, I'd say 2, 3 months to come, I'd say 3. In case I wanted to get a payment that was due last month, I'd say -1. But since this one we want to get the next month that is coming, we have 1. And then yeah, you can also use this, either you can choose a day, in the next hour, in the next week, but as we want to get in the next month. And then next you'd have an apply to each. So the reason why we have the convert time zone and the formatting of the time zones and the formatting of the add to time is because sometimes the output that comes from the time zone has this extension, and when you compare it in a condition, it does not actually give you the actual, the correct month or the correct time that you need. So, and then you format it to just, since we only want the month, in this case, you just format it, you format the date time to month and to just show month and year. And then here we have our conditions. So if the outputs from the first formatting or the outputs from the second formatting, if say here you can even say, yeah, if it contains, then you can send an email. So yeah, and that is how you actually come up with the payment reminder. So in case this the format convert, so what we are formatting here, the convert time zone, is actually the value of the payment date. So we are formatting the payment date into month and year, and if the payment date, you can say it contains or is equal to the add to time, then sends an email to the internal contractor, the finance team. In case you'd like to have them in copy, you can still add them here as a copy. And then you let know that the contract of the title, getting the title dynamically of a certain value is due on this date. Yes, so this thought process is actually similar for the contract expiry. It's just that now for the contract expiry, the user is let know that the contract is actually set to expire. Would you like to renew the contract, or would you like it to go ahead and go to archive? Yes, so another workflow that maybe we could go through is updating the contract status to archive. So this one is not very complex since we are only checking whether the expiry date is today. And then if the expiry date is today, it updates the status to archive. So we can just maybe take a quick look at it. So it runs every day. So this one has to run every day since we are actually checking the expiry date of the contract. Then we get the items using the SharePoint connector. We format today's date. Then we get the contract expiry date, a similar step as we had done. So we compose the date to format date time. And then the condition, if the outputs from the different formats are the same, then we go and update the item to archive. Yep. So we get the item by ID, update the ID, update the title, and then update to archive. Yeah, and those are the flows that you can set up in your contract management solution. Would you be having any questions from the chat?
On my end, I don't see any questions.
Great. Please feel free to drop in any questions through our email, which is info@sibasi.ltd. And thank you so much for attending our session. Kindly follow us on Twitter and YouTube to get more of our sessions that we've been covering so far. Yeah, I'll hand over back to the host.
Thank you, Consolata, for this session. I believe it was a lively session and we have learned a lot. So I think that's the end of our session today. Till next time, same place, same time. Bye.